No, I don't know.
Okay, thanks. I think we're ready. Can you test?
Hello, testing. Oh, okay, I see.
Can you hear us all right? Sounds good.
Hi, everybody. My name is Teresa Choclos. For those of you who don't know me, I have been volunteering with AARP since, August of 2020. I retired in 2019 from the District of Columbia Superior Court in the Family Court Self-Help Center, where I worked for 10 years. I have a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice from Northeastern University and a Juris Doctorate from Regent University in Virginia Beach. When I retired, I moved up to Massachusetts. I connected with AARP, and I am part of the Speakers Bureau. I give talks on, in addition to this new talk, Adapting and Transitioning as We Age, I give talks on the 6 pillars of brain health and caregiving, all of which continues what I've always done in my career, and that's empowering others with information so that they can make the best decisions possible for important things such as the changing in our lives. So this presentation today is about adapting and transitioning as we age, as we're confronted with having to make major decisions that will affect our household environment, our income, our health, and our well-being. We want to help you be able to understand that it's possible to face change, embrace it, plan for it, and live it out on terms that you are comfortable with because you put thought into making and implementing a plan. This one? Which one?
Usually it advances.
I never put it on that particular screen, so. I'll just keep talking a little bit while we change the next slide. So part of our objectives are to talk about the big changes that happen throughout life. First, we walk, we learn to ride a bicycle, attend school, and so on. And have you noticed that after a certain age, changes come more frequently, and a lot of changes require that we adjust and adapt, sometimes more quickly than we would like. And many of these changes require thought. For example, the decision to retire. Upon making this decision, some of what we need to determine includes what a new budget looks like, what our healthcare coverage will be, and whether we would be able to remain living in our home on this new fixed income. It's daunting and it requires a lot of time, effort, and planning. In this session, we're going to review the concepts of adapting and transitioning. We will discuss how, as we age, we have to adapt and transition into new situations almost on a daily basis. We will look at how this constant state of adapting and transitioning may affect us and our loved ones. And we will talk about how we will best navigate constant change so that we can enjoy our lives and our loved ones. During the session and at the end, we will provide you with some resources. And before we begin, just a few ground rules. We'll share the floor so that everyone has an opportunity to talk through the chat. If you have a question that's compelling, put it in at any time. Otherwise, try to hold your questions until the end. And you can also use the raise your hand feature and unmute yourself when it's time for questions. It's a judgment-free zone. There are no silly or crazy questions, so please feel free to do that. And also remember to silence your cell phones, especially when you're off mute. Okay.
I'm gonna move so I'm not in your camera view. I don't want people to just see you, not me bobbing behind you.
Okay. Oh, wait.
We can do that from over there.
Okay. So what happens to us as we face changes? Do we become anxious, overwhelmed, stressed, depressed? Do we feel like we're the only person going through it, especially given the fact that financial situations can be as unique and individual as we are? It seems everything is a process which requires navigation. If we feel like we are the only one going through a particular situation or phase of change, we can begin to feel so overwhelmed that we start to experience mental and physical distress. This distress can include feeling isolated or alone, as if we are the only person faced with so many decisions and changes. At times, this presentation may seem to be going in the direction of loneliness and isolation, which has become a real concern and challenge for many of us. However, what this presentation is about is the importance of developing a personal management system that may make you feel more secure and comfortable, and therefore have more time and energy to deal with the numerous rapid change in your life. Change the slide. So what is adapting? We should go ahead and move to the next one. Adaptability expands your capacity to handle change, no matter how serious it might be. Instead of throwing away your energy trying to change your circumstance, you will change yourself right from within, thus making you thrive in whatever situation you find yourself. Adaptable people can possess elastic-like energy, a willingness to bend and break habits, to challenge themselves when their circumstances change. They tend to face problems, pivot among distractions, and politely proceed forward. Adaptable people are prone to think ahead and consistently focus on improvement. Next slide. Transition is the internal psychological process of adapting to a new situation. Transition can happen quickly or slowly. It's the process of moving successfully from the old to the new. Next slide. So what are the effects of constant adapting and transitioning? And why is it so important to adapt and transition smoothly? And we're going to explore two notions. First, the correlation between change and loneliness, and second, the fact that people are better able to cope if they have a plan. But first, in formulating any questions or comments you might consider, think about what's worked for you so far and what you would offer as a suggestion for others who are having trouble adapting and transitioning. So let's get into these effects of constant adapting and transitioning. But first, the correlation between change and loneliness. The journals of gerontology found an association in the rates of change in the three outcomes, as those whose distress levels were increasing also experienced an associated decrease in life satisfaction and an increase in loneliness. Factors associated with worsening loneliness included older age, experiencing stressful life events, bereavement, histories of vascular disease and depression, and social connection disruptions. Factors associated with a decrease in loneliness included identifying as Black, engaging in more frequent physical activity, being optimistic, and having a higher purpose in life. A 3-point increase in loneliness scores was associated with higher perceived stress, higher depressive, and higher anxiety symptoms. Social connection disruptions showed modest or no associations with mental health. Research shows that Americans who have become less engaged with worship houses, community organizations, and even their own family members in recent decades have steadily reported an increase in feelings of loneliness. The number of single households has also doubled over the last 60 years. As you grow older, you may find yourself spending more time at home alone. Being lonely or socially isolated is not good for your overall health. For example, it can increase feelings of depression or anxiety, which can have a negative impact on many other aspects of your health. If you find yourself spending a lot of time alone, try participating in activities you find meaningful, those that create a sense of purpose in your daily life. These can include hobbies, volunteer activities, or time with family and friends. Next slide. So people are better able to and prepared to cope. When people feel happier and healthier, they are more likely to be resilient, which is our ability to bounce back and recover from difficult situations. Positive emotions, optimism, physical and mental health, and a sense of purpose are all associated with resilience. Deciding and sharing your decisions can help your loved ones during a stressful time and best ensure your wishes are understood and respected. Next slide. So, is planning ahead helpful or not? The Conversation Project, which is a public engagement initiative of the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, states, our goal is both simple and transformative, to help everyone talk about their wishes for care through the end of life so those wishes can be understood and respected. It's time to share the way we want to live through the end of our lives, and it's time to communicate about the kind of care we want and don't want for ourselves. We believe that the place for this to begin is at the kitchen table, not in the intensive care unit, with the people who matter most to us before it's too late. Together, we can make these difficult conversations easier, and we can make sure that our own wishes and those of the people who matter most to us, our loved ones, our friends, our chosen family, are both understood and respected. The Conversation Project offers free tools, guidance, and resources to begin talking with those who matter most about you and their wishes. Next slide. For many, the prospect of leaving the daily work routine behind brings joy and anticipation, as it did for me. But some older adults approach retirement with something more like dread. They fear losing their sense of purpose. They worry about how they'll fill their days, wonder who they even are without their career. Work structures us and gives us routine in our lives, says Louis Primavera, a professor of psychology at Touro College in New York City. We plan around work. It's part of our identity. We go to a social gathering and people say, "What do you do?" Clearly, what happens is people say, "What am I going to do? What am I going to be?" The fear of loss of identity is a major fear. Next slide. So the fear of boredom and isolation, such concerns are commonplace. About 1 in 5 U.S. workers surveyed by the Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies late last year, which is actually 2022, identified finding meaningful ways to spend time and stay involved as one of their biggest retirement fears. 1 in 4 were afraid of being isolated and alone. Just the word retirement has negative connotations for many, according to the center's finding, issued in the July report that year. While slight majorities associated with freedom and enjoyment, 16% connect retirement with boredom and 11% with isolation. You know, when I retired, I already knew I was going to do work for AARP and another organization upon retiring. And I have to tell you, one of the things you have to remember when you retire and you try to volunteer, set boundaries, because AARP will keep you busy Monday through Friday, all day, if you allow it. So don't be afraid to set limits. Next slide. So conversations, who should we have them with and why? Let's face it, all of us are in relationships with partners, friends, family, etc. And when we are going through a significant transition, it impacts the circles around us as much as it does for us individually. While there is a certain romance to the idea of being a Superman or Wonder Woman who is totally self-sufficient, wise, and independent, in reality, we are communal and social creatures. Next slide. AARP has several presentations that emphasize having a conversation with loved ones about future plans for caregiving, care receiving, which is the Prepare to Care presentation. Next slide. About brain health, which is discussed in the 6 pillars of brain health presentation. Next slide. Downsizing and decluttering, which is another presentation in and of itself, and that's to name just a few right now. Next slide. We talked with a wide range of people, men, women, some who are still working, some retired, some on their own, some married, and some currently caring for a loved one. Next slide. The questions posed to everyone were, do you have a plan in place for your retirement and future as circumstances evolve? And if so, how does having the plan make you feel? If not, how does that make you feel? In our interviews, the overarching commonality was the fact that those with children did not want to have to burden their children with worry or monetary concerns. Next slide. So Dennis describes himself as spontaneous, but has all his legal documents completed. He stated both of his parents lived to ages 83 and 93, so he believes he comes from a good gene pool and figures that things will work out. He has all his legal documents completed, including funeral and burial arrangements. Dennis stated it's important to make decisions so that others don't have to, and that the best gift one can give to our family is to not have them make decisions during a crisis situation. Dennis feels in control of his future since he has planned and documented his wishes. He believes it is best to deal with changes rationally, not emotionally. He is concerned that too many people are waiting too long to talk and then a crisis occurs. Next slide. Jim and Linda are a married couple, part of a blended but separated family. Jim stated, action without a plan is chaos. Having a plan makes him feel satisfied. He is flexible as things in life change. Jim has planned and saved for his retirement since he was 22 years old and describes himself as frugal. Jim said, live today like no one else so you can live tomorrow like no one else. He has all his legal proxies done and he's currently working full time, but is beginning to transition to retirement, during which he plans to continue working as a consultant. Linda was forced into retirement, but continues to do contract work on her own schedule. She's the manager of their home. She says, stays proactive and wants to stay mentally challenged and as physically fit as possible. Both Jim and Linda plan to remain in their current home as long as possible. Next slide. Vanessa, Victoria, and Reginald are siblings who reside in different states in America from the East Coast to the West Coast. Though none are yet at retirement age and still work full-time, they work together as a team to care for their mother, who resides in a nursing home on the East Coast. All have already prepared their legal documents that contain their wishes for healthcare proxies, financial affairs, and burials. Each sibling believes that planning is key. None want to be the cause of any financial strain on their children, and they each describe themselves as one who does not like to have to ask for help. They all stated that working as a team to care for their mother has worked well for them, as they each pull from their own strengths to determine the tasks they perform. So for instance, the mom and Vanessa live on the East Coast, and the mom is in a nursing home right now. So Vanessa's the one who kind of goes to visit, takes her out sometimes to the park or maybe appointments or gets her hair done. The brother lives in California. He handles all the paperwork, all the bills, anything like that that he can do remotely on his computer. And then the sister lives in Ohio. So what she does is about every 5 weeks or so, she goes to Virginia for the week and gives Vanessa a break so that Victoria will go and take care of mom and do all of that, and Vanessa can kind of take care of herself. They communicate regularly. They either do conference calls or Zoom. And so that's one way, when I do the caregiving talk, I tell this story to people to show them that even though you live apart, there's a way you can still work together to care for someone. Next slide. Cindy feels very comfortable with what she has in place. She retired in May 2022, and her employer provided retirement planning information, which included written documents and the availability of video chats. When planning her retirement, she relied on information as follows: 20% employer information, 50 to 60% on conversations with friends, and 20% on Medicare insurance group. She did hire a financial advisor to assist with bills and other financial matters. She has a last will and testament in place. And Cindy has 2 adult children and other family members that live nearby, so she has a network of people to connect with. She resides in a 55-plus community where everyone looks out for one another, but she does note it has been sad when neighbors start to deteriorate. Cindy has had discussions mostly with her daughter about her wishes should she no longer be able to live in her current home, and her son is aware of her wishes. Next slide. Gordon and Brian collectively have a plan in place. Both are still working full-time, but with a 15-year age difference, Brian believes he is approaching retirement and will be potentially in need of care much sooner than Gordon. They agreed that staying focused, tightening their budget, and communicating with each other is important. Gordon stated that having a plan in writing makes him feel comfortable and good and gives him the ability to focus on the meaningfulness of aging. He was a caregiver for both of his parents and understands he may have to be a caregiver again. Gordon also said that spiritually, all his years working in healthcare and hospice care has kept the aging process on his radar, and this has opened up possibilities. Next slide. The Urban Farming Institute fit around the farm members. We talked to this group of people because they are so energetic, vibrant in their retirement years, and they, through COVID, have managed to stay active and connected with one another. They have all completed the 5 wishes document made available to them from AARP. Mickey stated she has had to significantly curb her spending since retiring. Who hasn't? She described herself as spontaneous and a go-getter. She expressed concern that the lack of financial stability creates anxiety for a lot of people and that she would like to see the government help out more. Mickey takes advantage of many senior activities that are available in the Boston area, including transportation. She said that once you retire, you do lose some friends, but she has also gained friends. Regina retired in 2014 and has a will prepared along with the 5 wishes document. She stated she has a sense of relief since preparing her will and the 5 wishes document, but stated that her family does not like to talk about her plans. Next slide. Sharon feels confident and happy about her plan and has talked about it with her adult children. She said, everything is in the binder. She remains active in her retirement with church activities and exercise. She wants to remain independent. Nellie stated that at first, her children did not want to have any conversation about plans as her aging evolves, but recently her daughter has initiated a conversation. Upon taking an early retirement, Nellie initially felt confident in what she had set aside. Next slide. Deciding and sharing your decisions can help your loved ones during a stressful time and best ensure your wishes are understood and respected. Conversations that take place over the course of time as the situation evolves make sense. In the numerous resources, events, presentations that AARP offers, having a conversation with loved ones is a common theme. In the Prepare to Care presentation, there are suggestions on how to get a conversation started and what to do if you continue to run into problems. In the 6 pillars of brain health, staying active and connected to others are noted to promote good brain health. The downsizing and decluttering presentation talks about how to begin to clear your current home of the items that are holding you back from moving forward and thinking clearly. Age-friendly presentations provide information on how to remain in your home and community safely and for a longer period of time. Some of the resources on the slide you see are the website for the Conversation Project. And basically, if you just go to www.aarp.org, you can then link to this virtual volunteering, the caregiving, the virtual community center, the livable community center. You can link to all of the resources that AARP has. So just remember, if nothing else, aarp.org. Next slide. This is a copy of the 5 wishes document. And it has a format of how to write down your wishes for who you want to make care decisions when you can't, the kind of medical treatment you want or don't want, how comfortable you want to be as you age, how you want people to treat you, and what you want your loved ones to know. The document provides descriptions of each wish to help you consider and decide the particular issue. Next slide. So we want you to live your best life as you reach the point of having the time to pursue all the possibilities, to do the things you've put off while working full time. Plan ahead, document your wishes for healthcare, living arrangements, and slowly but surely start talking with your family, whatever that looks like, so that they know and understand how you reach the choices you have put into writing. So now it's time for any questions, comments, suggestions that you might have.
Fantastic job, Teresa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Kathy.
I have a question. In hindsight, now that you're retired, do you wish you had started earlier, or is there like an ideal age that you wish you had started planning?
It was tricky for me because I had to retire early because of some health issues. But I do have to say, one of the bonuses of having worked for the federal government is they had kind of about when you were more than 5 years out, a pre-retirement planning seminar. And then as you got closer to retirement, they had the retirement planning seminar and I was so glad I went to the first one, the pre-retirement, because that clued me in on, paying off that credit card, paying down that car payment as much as possible, looking into, how I'm spending, how much I spend for groceries and gasoline and all of that. And so for me, I was able to put a little bit more into my, in the federal government, they call it the TSP, but it's like an IRA. So that was extremely helpful to me. And so when my health issues started to kind of take over, at least on that end, I was ready, to plan. Then I started thinking about, well, what am I going to do? Because, I can still do X, Y, and Z. It was kind of the commute that was affecting me terribly, and the amount of time I was having to take off to go to doctor's appointments. And I worked in DC. I lived in Columbia, Maryland, but my doctors were in Baltimore. So one appointment was a whole day off from work. So yeah, I think under the circumstances of having to retire kind of unexpectedly at a much earlier age, that I did pretty well. And then I had my daughter who, kind of brought up the notion of us kind of combining resources and living together. So that's kind of why I came to Massachusetts. And plus she said, New England has the best medical care in the world. So, what can I say to that? Hi, Kelly.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So you talked a lot about, great job, by the way. You talked a lot about, planning in a lot of different instances, planning around your retirement, planning around long-term care, maybe end-of-life care. What do you say, or what do, I guess, the people in the room say to people who might not be as organized or as like emotionally ready to make that organization? Like if I'm feeling super, super overwhelmed, how do I take a step back and ready myself to kind of start making those plans? I don't know if that makes sense, but
I personally would say to people, what do you talk to your friends about, right? If you're having a lunch with somebody or you're taking a walk with somebody, and maybe during that time, which is kind of a chill, relaxed time, ask them, how did you adjust to retirement? And that might start giving you some ideas that, number one, you're not the first person to retire and have to think about these things. And also, what that person has decided to do and how it's affecting them. And so sometimes just, having just a little brief start, and then it gets you thinking, and then you maybe take the next step. So it can be a little baby step type of situation, but to me, as long as you are thinking about it and then maybe starting to do something, it's fine. I don't think anybody has to do everything all at once, and we can't know what the future holds, but as we talk about it and think about it, I think we're better able to shift as things change for us. Jackie Spencer. Thank you to all my friends from back in the day in Maryland who are supporting me today. Hi, Jackie.
Good morning, Terry. Thank you. It was a wonderful presentation. Thank you. I do have a follow-up question. Thank you for the resource of 5 wishes, because it is daunting to think about how to start planning and thinking about certain issues and topics. Are there other resources in the state, like when we're thinking about our advanced planning or wills and other stuff, that we should be mindful of and be checking in with?
Yeah, I mean, you're in Maryland, so AARP, you've got AARP there. So just go to you can go to aarp.org and then hit /MD for Maryland, and that will tell you some things that are in your area. And also the same resources that are available on aarp.org to everybody, it's available nationwide. So you would see some of that. And then the other thing is just however specific you want to start to get, if you own property, you've got young kids that, might need care, you may want to consult professionals in these areas, lawyers or financial people, to start helping. A lot of the time, government workers, one of the good things about it is that their human resources offices offer these retirement planning seminars that I mentioned that the federal government offered. So take advantage even now, like even if it seems, I'm not going to retire for 20 more years, still take advantage of it so you can start knowing what it is you have to start to think about.
Thank you.
I see something in the chat. Did you hear that?
That's probably the hellos.
Oh.
Mornings.
Yeah, I think it was just,
Just the hello.
yeah, in the morning we muted ourselves and they couldn't hear us earlier on.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? And I thank all the AARP folks that tuned in today also. I know sometimes you guys are busy between tabling events and botanical garden events and all the things that we get ourselves involved in. Okay. Well, thank you again, everybody, so much. I appreciate you, and have a great rest of the day. Jackie's
Thank you.
my friend that got married in St. Croix.
Was she on a treadmill, Dad?